Hi, and welcome to the first episode of the Retirement Concepts podcast, co-hosted by myself, Lionel O'Mally, financial planner for Purpose Planning, and Peter Graham from Redefining Retirement. Now, we're going to jump in and give you some regular content via this new podcast, the Retirement Concepts podcast, and talk all things about retirement. We've recently just written the little book of retirement concepts together, and now we wanted to display our knowledge, display our information and content, and help pre-retirees and retirees understand issues and concepts in retirement. Now, myself as a financial planner, I'd like to let Peter Graham introduce himself and let us hear about who Peter Graham is, the co-author of the Little Book of Retirement Concepts, the man behind Redefining Retirement himself, but also we want to hear about you, Peter. So thanks for jumping on and becoming a co-host of the Retirement Concepts podcast.
Well done. Well, I've been in the industry a long time, not only the financial services industry, but the retirement industry as well. In fact, I was a financial advisor for 50 years. It's 50 years working for myself, and I loved every minute of it, and it was a fantastic profession to be in. I think one of the joys of being a financial planner, and I'm sure Lionel finds this as well, is you get to help people, and you can help them in a very meaningful way, and they can understand it. Now, after those 50 years of being a financial planner, doing what Lionel does, for example, I became a retirement coach, and I worked out as a financial advisor that retirement was not just about money, but there was something missing, and that was people did not fully appreciate all the lifestyle issues associated with retirement. So that's what I now do. I now teach people the lifestyle issues about retirement. In other words, how do you fill in all those years that you're going to be in retirement? And that could be 30 years. It's a long time to be sitting around. So I help you understand those issues.
So Pete, tell us now your background and how you got into the financial planning world. Tell us where you started off in your financial planning journey, and what type of advice did you give, and what were the sort of fondest memories that you had while working in the financial planning world?
Wow, that's amazing. Well, it started in 1966. Now, not many people watching this show would remember 1966, and I'm 80 years of age and too young to retire in a traditional way. But I started as a financial advisor. Then it was very basic, very simple, was all about saving money and protecting yourself with life insurance. And over the last 50 or 60 years, it's expanded rapidly to be this fabulous profession that it is at the moment. It's completely different than it was all those years ago, and yet basically it's the same. It's all about saving money and protecting yourself in case you don't make it. That's what life insurance and income protection insurance is all about. And the saving is what we all know about: superannuation, retirement funding, buying houses, investing, all those types of things. So I did all of those things. Now, what were the highlights? Well, I guess the real highlight were the educational sessions that I was able to become involved in. I belong to an international organisation going back a long time. I joined in 1976. It's called the $1 Million Roundtable, or MDRT as it's known today. And I've been to many international conferences to learn about the important issues associated with advice. And that's what Lionel does, that's what I do, and that is giving proper and meaningful advice to people so that they can enjoy their world. So it's the educational areas that I really enjoyed most, and then going out and talking to my customers and my friends about the needs and the solutions to their problems.
So over time, as you went to all of these conferences, just for example, just name some of the places that you went to and some of the conferences what was the biggest impact to some of the conferences? Why did you go to them?
Well, the first conference I went to for the MDRT was in Boston, and that was in 1976. And there were about 4,000 people there. So it was a huge conference as far as I was concerned, 4,000 people in those days with a lot of people in one room. And that was a fabulous conference. The first conference is always the one that you remember most, I guess. But I've been to other ones where I've been to Chicago, and I've been to New York and Atlanta and Vancouver, all over the place, mainly in North America, of course. I guess the real benefit of going to those conferences is not only the education, but also the people you meet. And I've got to meet some really fabulous and amazing people. I remember there was a chap years ago by the name of John Savage, and he was a well-known and highly respected individual. And I was able to stay at his house and overnight. And during the day, he said, "Come on, Pete, come and meet a couple of my clients." So I did, went round and visited his customers. And to my surprise, he turned to the customer and he said, "Tell me why you deal with me." And the customer willingly explained why he dealt with John. And that was a real eye-opener to me, because it taught me that the key to success, not only in business, but also in life, is being able to ask the difficult questions and the meaningful questions. And that's what I have learned over the years, meeting people like John and many, many other people. Now, Lionel's a new member of the MDRT,
Yeah.
and is taking advantage of what it's been developing over the years. But I guess the highlight over the time I was there is that when was it, 6 years ago, I was able to be on the main platform of this conference and talk to 12,000 people.
12,000.
12,000 people in the audience.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
And it was a fabulous experience, but that's what can happen as you develop from a very basic, ordinary individual. You can develop up your skills and get to a point where maybe that can happen to you too. You never know.
Now, do you think if you weren't part of that group, how might your advice for being not have changed, or would have changed?
Well, I think it would have been very basic if I hadn't have had that training and experience and meeting other people. I learned very clearly at these conferences that there was a need to not only help people, but to be involved in a very special way with those individuals. Now, I'm not talking about living in their lives or anything like that. You just become very, very, very good friends. And how do you know whether your clients are friends? Well, you don't. But unfortunately for me, I did find out, and I got very sick at one stage and I was given a few days to live. Now, obviously that didn't happen, but it was a 4-year battle to get to where I am now. And when I went back to those customers that I hadn't seen for years and years and years because of the illness I was handling, their reaction was just they cried. That's all, cried. They meant a lot to me and I meant a lot to them. And that's what I learned. So the relationship that you develop with a great financial advisor, and Lionel's one of those guys, is you'll develop a special relationship with them. And that relationship will help you have a better life, because you know that you've got somebody you can go to at any stage and ask any question. Not just money questions, but any questions. And Lionel's smart enough to know that if he doesn't know the answers, he knows where to go to get the answers. And that type of relationship in a friendship is absolutely vital.
Yeah, I think it's a big misconception in the financial planning world that the financial planners are just all talking about the aspects of money only. And I think you can really differentiate yourself from the pack where you explain to people you're not just talking to them about money. It's all about mindset, the psychology of making the right decisions at the right times is the big key. And also the piece of it is most people these days come to you without an ounce of information or a slight idea of what they want to do. But we can work out where they are and at that point in time and sort of project them and guide them along the right path along the way towards there. In our facet of fields is retirement planning. So yeah, when we come to meet with clients for the first time, it's great to help them understand all the different areas. And yeah, one of the key aspects of writing this little book, the little book of retirement concepts, is to give you information to help you understand the areas and the aspects and the concepts about retirement. There is financial aspects, which I help you out from the financial advice piece. And then there's the lifestyle aspects that Peter Graham helps you out with the understanding your issues in retirement. Now, there are a number of issues in retirement, Pete. How many issues have you discovered along your path?
Well, basically, there's 9 sets of issues, but break those down, and you've probably got over 100. 100 things that you could know about, many you should know about. Sometimes it's good to know the others, especially if you're keen to have a fabulous retirement. And they may seem very basic, but unfortunately, we as humans don't do these things as well as we should. Let's take fitness, for example. We all know, to the point where we don't want to hear it again, I guess, that we should be fit. Well, doing it is a lot more difficult than just saying it. And that's one of the things that I've been able to do, and one of the things I encourage people to do as a retirement coach, is to understand that fitness is the number one thing that we've got to actually focus on. Health is number one. Number one. Without your health, you don't have a retirement. And so I help people understand the aspects associated with the health. Now, I'm not a doctor, I don't want to be a doctor, but I know a lot of key doctors and key people in the medical profession, and they've helped me build up and develop the information that we pass on. So it's coming from the source that is really great, and that is from professional advice. They haven't got time to talk to you, but through me, I can talk to you about the important aspects.
Yeah, there is a number of issues in retirement, and fitness and the health will designate a podcast just on that to talk about to people about. And these are all the areas that we're going to be covering in this podcast. Retirement concepts is understanding retirement aspects, ideas, concepts, and all the pieces in between it. I want to talk to people about the financial aspect of it, leading into retirement, post-retirement, during retirement, and the later years of retirement as well. There's a number of different areas that we can talk about, and we're going to unpack a lot of those concepts throughout this podcast, where you can sit down, either watch the video or listen to us on Spotify, and you'll be able to hear the little pieces of information that you may be able to just take away, think for a minute, and actually reapply it back to your own self. And that's one of the key things or the key learnings that we get out of going to MDRT, the $1 Million Roundtable. You go to this conference, it's an international conference, there's 2 a year, one in America and one in Asia Pacific. I've just recently come back from the annual meeting in Vancouver, and the big piece of it all is it's a 4-day conference jam-packed of information. Now, if you're at the point where you think taking all that information in is really just going to balloon your head of information until you get to a point it's just going to pop because you're taking in so much information throughout the course of the 4 days. The key aspects and learnings, taking the learnings away from Peter and a number of other advisors that go to the conferences, to really take away 2 or 3 takeaways from the whole conference of all the information that you've learned and reapply them back into your business and your life to make your life or your business better than where it was when you started. And there's a continual journey of just learning, understanding, developing, and obviously self-improvement along the way. And the journey is just going to keep elevating your approach to life. Now, sometimes you may pick up things about advice, the business side of it. Sometimes you may pick up stuff on the financial or the lifestyle issues or your personal wealth and well-being. So throughout the course of this podcast, we will touch on MDRT quite a bit, just because after our first MDRT conference, or my first MDRT conference, which was in Sydney, Australia in August of 2021, I met Peter after the conference. We never met at the conference. There was 7,000 people there. We didn't meet formally, but I sourced out Peter, and I knew Peter was a retirement coach, and me as a financial planner that specialises in retirement planning. It was just like he was the main person in the whole industry that I wanted to get to know more.
Thank you.
And the reason for that is that you have so much knowledge and information up here that now we've got it into here. It's become a wealth of information and knowledge from you to me, and I thank you for that. Genuinely.
Well, another aspect of that is that having information, in other words, having technical knowledge or book knowledge or university degrees or any form of education, it doesn't matter what it is basically useless unless you know how to apply it. And if there's anyone that can help you on the financial side, Lionel can help you know how or learn how to apply what he knows and you need to know and you decide to adopt. How do you apply all this wonderful information that's out there? That's where we specialise. We specialise in helping you in the practical issues associated with retirement.
Yeah, that's one of the key things with I find a lot of people these days, they refer back to Google. Google becomes the expert, which Google has a lot of information, but Google doesn't have the application or the execution of those ideas. Now, that's the difference between doing it yourself as a DIY. Sometimes you sit there and you have this great idea and this great grand plan, and you go out and implement a portion of it. For example, a lot of people have self-managed super funds set up because they've been at a barbecue and their friends said they've set up a self-managed super fund. And they've gotten to the point now where it's all set up, they've paid the fees and all that sort of stuff to do it themselves because it's a DIY, do it yourself. But they're at the point now where they actually go and execute the plan. Now, executing the plan is the biggest key with planning. If you're not executing the plan, then you're wasting your time. So you're wasting time, and the opportunity cost that we talk about a lot in financial planning is the opportunity cost about either starting at point A and going to point B where you want to get to, or starting at point A, thinking about it the whole time, and you're in the same point when you get to later down the track. So, yeah, it's been a privilege to work with you, Peter, throughout the course of the last 2 years. And now I really want to get all that information out of our brains and the knowledge that we've acquired over a number of years. It would be 60 odd years between both of us at the moment. So we're going to bring this podcast to you We hope you enjoy the information that we speak about. If you don't mind, like and subscribe to the podcast. We've got an Instagram page. We've got a Facebook page for our little book of retirement concepts. We'll be posting a lot of our information through the pages, and we'll have a Spotify account where you can listen to the little book of retirement concepts, the retirement concepts podcast that is coming live to you around the globe. So we hope you enjoy. So Pete, have you got any final thoughts before we?
Well, yes, there's just one thing that I'd like to mention. As you approach this challenge, you've got an opportunity to learn a lot about retirement, be it the financial side or the lifestyle side, doesn't matter. There's one thing that may cause you to pause, and that is doubt. You will have doubts as to whether you should do this, you should do that, you should do something else and everything else. And I remember at one of the conferences, a psychologist said to me, he said, doubt kills the magnificent. And that's what happens in life. The doubt holds people back and doesn't let them progress to the fantastic things that can happen. So I'd encourage you to dispel the doubt and get on with life. Catch up with Lionel, catch up with me, and I'm sure we can help you have a fabulous retirement.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for
Thank you very
listening.
much.
We will reconvene in the weeks to come, and we'll be sending out our podcasts hopefully on a fortnightly basis. So there's going to be a mixture of content here, all things retirement. If you want to listen to about a retirement concepts podcast, you are listening to it now. We hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. And if you want a copy of our book, jump on to the links below and you too can get yourself a copy of our hard copy book, The Little Book of Retirement Concepts. Cheers.